Okay, perfect. So this is how, and just to note, this is in the staging environment. It's currently not in UAT. We are going to go ahead and do a UAT push by the end of this week. So we are still doing some bug testing and stuff like that. So I've sort of put a hold on the UAT push. So this is in staging, but just to note, it will move to UAT soon. So this is the look and feel of the login page initially. So this is how it looks. You have my well-being. So I'm currently hoping this needs to be changed to my health and well-being now, which would be done once I receive the confirmation of the tagline. So this is how it looks. Manage all of your health, well-being needs in one place. So you have the option to sign up here. You also have some information here that says you can stay secure, how you can manage things. It just gives a little bit of context on what we're talking about. So how do we connect with different people? You can connect with family, friends, and clinicians, and how you can track different information using the portal as well. And based on all of this, how you can discover and what you can do going forward. So this is the option to sign up now. I'm not going to sign up. I'm just going to log in now. And I'll just go through this. Give me 1 second. Let me just get the username. So this is how it looks. It does have an option that says you can go ahead and sign up here if you don't have it. If someone has not used the option in the previous page to actually click on sign up. So you put in the email, you put in the password, you can have the option to remember. So I'm just going to click and this happens again. Just a second. Hoping I select all the bridges. Yep. Apparently I missed something. Okay. So this should log me in now. Okay. So this is the dashboard view. And I have different dashboard items on the left-hand side corner where once I click on the plus symbol here, it will add to the dashboard. I can directly track it here. Currently, the only things that I added are the location, the tracker option, and the documents, which will show the appointments and stuff. And I also have what are the services that the portal currently supports. I'm just going to go through the this option where you can go ahead and change the theme of the portal, and we also have an option to increase the font size and to decrease the font size, and I think this is mostly due to the older adults platform that we have in here. I think this might be helpful to them if they have this option. And then we have the login information, and then here is the bento menu. So first I'm just going to go through my health, and which is different things. So you have an about me option where you can go ahead and fill in your details, which would be your basic details, date of birth, address, ethnicity, religion, disabilities, languages. And then you have an also information to fill up your GP name and their information, and also to fill up your family's information here. So if you want to add any next of kin, you can go ahead and add this here, their information, and you can go ahead and save this. And then you have about my health, which I'm going to do current health. Okay, so this is what, okay, let me put it here. So I have an option called as add and edit. So if I go ahead and input my diagnostics, right now I haven't added any, so that's why it shows empty. So once I put in my diagnosis here, I can add multiple ones. I can add my medication. It has the medication name, the dosage, the frequency, and the date when I started the medication. I can add my allergies, I can add my blood type and all of this. So once I add in this information, is when it will actually go ahead and populate. Give me one, sorry, it's just loading. Okay, so it's just going to go ahead and populate that in this column. Okay, so if I want to edit, I can edit, but whatever I have added is what will get displayed here. Then I have the lifestyle option wherein I can add my apparently I'm smoking and drinking, so I can add how many smokes I have had, my drinks, my weight, my height, my BMI, my hobbies, if I want to add any, can be added here as well. And then I have the final option, which is the health history, which will give me an overview of whatever I've added in my current health. So this is the default page it populates. If need be, I can go to current health and just modify the details here. After which I have appointments. Currently, we are not pulling in any appointments. So if I have any, I can either choose the date from the calendar view to view the appointments here, which will be displayed, or I can have a view here as well, because there's no appointments that are currently being pulled. It's not being shown here. So you have both the options. You can use the filter to select whether it's an inpatient or an outpatient patient appointment, and I can see it over here, or if I want to choose a particular date, it would populate here as well.
So if I can just jump in for a second, and we've got a question from Andy. So obviously the appointments, the dependency is being able to pull this information from the shared care record, and so that there is work happening with InterSystems so that that level of interoperability is available, but it's just presenting appointments that are booked rather than being able to schedule and change at the moment. I think that's correct, but this was something Kevin Doherty from the Acute Trust mentioned this morning, and it's really about looking at the simple changes or simple tools that we can put in place to improve the communication and the understanding and the flow of information with patients, particularly when they get a referral from a GP and they maybe don't hear for a long time until they get a letter or something from the hospital. So so obviously the appointments is dependent upon the provision of data from the shared care record. Andy.
I think you kind of answered my question there, or sort of the point I was going to make, which I imagine there may be different timescales based on those dependencies within how we can access that information initially, maybe from each PHR or from the InterSystems. And so I guess as it progresses, we might have some timescales of when those different features will be online for the different systems.
Yes, so we do have Mike from Worcestershire Acute Hospitals Trust on the call today, but there's work in progress to look at the provision of data for Worcestershire Acute Hospitals Trust, because they are now live with the shared record, although they can only see their own data, but that's going to change very soon. And so that work has started happening, and some of the ad hoc meetings that we've been having with the Health and Care Trust to keep things moving, but to get everyone onto the same platform, we are looking at having an integration with Care Notes in the interim until we can deliver that same capability via InterSystems. But it will be dependent upon when partner organisations are ready, when the technology is ready, and when there's capacity to sort of push on some of these things. So it will take time to grow, and I assume we will need to make that clear within our information or training material or guidance for patients and carers. Okay, sorry to interrupt you there, Priya, but just wanted to clarify that for everyone. Thank you.
No worries. Sorry, any other questions?
We've got no hands, so I think you're good to go.
Okay, perfect then. Okay, so this is the appointment dashboard, and then we have the questionnaires option we can go ahead and add. Right now there's just a sample questionnaire in here, but these are questionnaires that I think the clinician would go ahead and provide you, and then you can go ahead and fill this out. Let me start. This is just view, and this is very basic questionnaire. It would go ahead and improve going forward, but this is just a draft version. As I said, this is the staging environment, so I'm not looking too keenly on that.
Just
yes.
pause for a second there. I think, we now have a questionnaire builder. Obviously, Google Docs and SurveyMonkey and lots of other tools are used. But if anyone on the call sees an opportunity, particularly with us going into winter again and times being a bit uncertain with infection rates and things, we do have a mechanism of collecting feedback from patients via the portal, which maybe encourage the uptake of the app, but also, as we're going to discuss a bit later, what information we can push out via the portal and make available. Ben.
Thanks, Graham. Looking fantastic, by the way. It's a great demo. With the questionnaires, I guess one point just to raise is I think the flexibility to build lots of different questionnaires is excellent. We're going to have to keep an eye on some of the copyright for the different materials, which I'm sure you're already aware of. And I don't know where that copyright needs to sit. Now, in our trust, when we've developed products for or kind of used things, there is an NHS digital clinical repository you can sign up to as an organisation for the princely sum of £1, which allows you to use a lot of stuff copyright free. Now, I don't know whether across the ICS we'd also need to sign up to that separately, but it might be worth us looking into. But the other thing I know we hit in with some other products was some questionnaires, the authors are very unhappy about them being changed in any way, even built into electronic records. So it might mean that each team or organisation, as they're wanting questionnaires built in, might need to do a little bit of work in the background to understand some of the copyright behind it, so we don't inadvertently build something in that then lands us in hot water because we didn't realise we needed copyright for it. I'm sure you're very experienced in this as a company as well, having done this for others, but yeah.
I think Katie has a comment.
Yeah, just to say we were looking into this with another client, and obviously it'll vary, but with some of them the license agreement we have to be, so we don't hold the license because we're not sort of using it for our purposes, but we need to be listed as a sort of sub-user on the NHS license for it. But as you've said, it'll vary a little bit depending on the questionnaire, so we will need to check that out, but it's hopefully normally doable.
And as a group, do we want to pass a recommendation or put this to the board to say that, do we want to control what surveys are created and some quality assurance either through this group or I think the long-term conditions design cell has it's patient-initiated follow-up surveys and other things that are on the table to look at, but Andy, Ben, any thoughts about how we control that?
This comes out. Sorry.
We can hear you.
The comes from some of the discussions. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, there was a bit of delay, but it's fine now. Yeah.
I wonder. We need to have some discussions about how we move forward, and obviously the design cells will have limited times. They're sort of more task finish, I imagine, and then there's going to be a discussion about going forward because people will want to amend and update questionnaires, so there needs to be a conversation about ongoing processes by which that information can be updated and, as Ben mentioned, kept within those NHS guidance and copyright issues. So I know you mentioned this, and I don't know if you mentioned it right at the beginning, about having some discussions around that sort of leadership part of it. But I think that is one of those pieces that we need to have some agreement around across the organisations. And it goes alongside, in my mind, some of the resource discussions we had around how you update information within the portal.
Yes, and we're working on a sort of framework with Mindwave. I've got a little bit of time at the end just to mention this to make sure everyone's got the opportunity to contribute. But I did mention earlier, Andy, that we're proposing to have a sort of couple of strategic workshops to look at the combined service level agreement and how we take this all forward. Ben, is that a new hand?
It is a new hand. Just to say, I think there's two levels of assurance we need here. There's the kind of clinical level that might come more from the design cells or whoever takes that on. So is this clinical questionnaire of a high enough standard that we would accept it going into the portal? I think separate to that, there is also a bit of assurance about, do we have all the legal stuff covered? And either we need to ensure that whoever's making that clinical decision has all the relevant stuff, like a checklist almost, to make that decision, or actually I do think there needs to be some central group who do have a bit of oversight to what goes on. And part of the reason it's just in the back of my mind is, as a clinician, I get dead excited by this stuff and I'll want to throw loads into it. And if I'm a patient coming into it, I could easily be overwhelmed by loads and loads of different questionnaires, lots built into a system. And there's something for me about how you still have some design oversight to keeping this usable and understandable for clients. So just because we can throw loads of things into it, I guess there's a question for me about should we? And you might find, as I say, there's those two different levels. There's the kind of each individual service who could have a stack of stuff they want to put in. I still think you're going to have some overall decision making to how much do you have in each area, and can we, you know, just check we've got all of the right kind of assurances in place. And hopefully within our own organizations, we're also going to have the IG leads and legal leads and others. So if we did hit an issue with copyright, we've got plenty of advice around. Andy said before about agreeing the process, and I still think that ongoing governance process for me is pretty clear, whether it's putting leaflets or self-help information or deciding which bits of kind of questionnaires go in. You're still going to have that decision-making process in the background forever, potentially.
And this discussion's come up with the Health and Care Trust, but also with Worcestershire Acute Hospitals Trust. And I think once we establish the long-term conditions design cell is just waiting to sort of get started. Dementia has also been approved, but I think this group will change. We did suggest this at the start, that we would the long-term conditions and this group would kind of split, or the work would be divided, because this group does need that higher level view about the assurance, the oversight, the governance, the process, the combined service level agreement, and the sort of process and workforce support and things. So we're just waiting for a little bit of advice from InterSystems about the care planning solution, and then we're hoping to get the long-term conditions group up and running. Amy, I think you were first.
Yeah, I think actually lots of people have touched on it already. I was going to say the same about the kind of data management going forward, but also that idea generation at the front end. There's going to be the design cells that are going to focus in on those specific clinical areas, but in terms of the kind of overarching questionnaires or management documents that we might want, is that to come through this group, or is there another route for that, is what I'm not quite clear on at the moment.
I think this group needs to change, and we're very focused on demos and looking at things, whereas I think the discussions we've had over the last couple of weeks is this group needs to have a higher level focus on the governance and the oversight, and then but it's difficult because everything's interrelated, but there's only so much you can achieve in 1 hour, and but we're sort of having a few conversations about that, and we'll certainly be having a chat with yourself and Emma and the personalised care leads about how we take it forward. Sarah.
Hi, it's just a suggestion really. Tamar Thompson is the chair of the current clinical advisory group, which at the moment is the high level clinical sign off. And I know that in future, the Clinical Practitioner Leadership Forum will be taking over some of their responsibilities. So I didn't know if that's one place to think about, from a clinical perspective, is this the place for some of that work to go through? And also, just to let you know, I'm sure you know, Graham, but Lauren Parry has this issue with TeamNet, when they upload clinical guidelines, and they've set up a governance group, but I don't know the composition of that. So these groups kind of exist, I think, is where I'm getting to, and it maybe we just have to understand where this could happen if it's not within this group, where it would be the best sort of governed provision. Knowing the leadership forms are split between Hereford and Worcester, so that might not be the solution, but it was just a thought.
First, the core care and support plan was presented to CAG, the clinical sorry, what's it stand for again?
Clinical Advisory Group.
Advisory Group. Thank you. It's quite simple. And so they Richard Davies did submit it through the group for we've been given approval in principle at this stage to proceed. The Digital Clinical Leaders Forum tends to be one of our ports of call for making sure things are progressing as they should be. But I think we do need to get into the detail of this over the next few weeks before we go live with some of these features. And Priya, I assume this is developed, it's available. What I'm hearing is we need process sort of controls around this feature and others. I assume we can deactivate things until we're ready to go live, for example.
Yes.
Questions.
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely. Yep.
Okay. Conscious of time, so Priya, I'm going to hand back over to you, and I might, if we can just leave 5 minutes at the end, so from 10 to 3, just to cover off a couple of other things. But if you are able to cram the rest into the next 15 minutes, that'd be great.
Yeah, I should be done in 10, so hopefully, yes.
Perfect.
Okay. So this is it for My Health. We have covered everything here. The next would be My Circle. As the name suggests, it's mostly about the circle that I have. So there are different types. I am conscious of the fact that there's no carer added here. We are importing features, and once that's there, the carer would automatically be added here. So currently I have clinician, friends, and family. So if I choose the clinician option, it will give me an option to enter what's the hospital, the clinician's name, last name, specialty, email address, and I also can, or the patient in this case, does have the opportunity to go ahead and provide rights to the clinician in this case, or any family member, to go ahead and edit, view, or have no access to the trackers. This is, they can connect with your circle or not. Do we give access to that particular person to connect access to the rest of your circle? And if they can view the features of About My Health, the questionnaires, and the appointments. So the patient has the opportunity to give access or to remove access at any time.
I'm just going to jump in there. Priya, we've got a question from Dr. Ash, your comment.
Yes, Andre.
Thank you for that. I was just commenting, and maybe it's a discussion, I'm not sure where the best place to have it is, that we've, in older, on the OHMS piece, we chose that actually we didn't want the patients to, we didn't feel that because of some of the mental health problems that they should be choosing who they wish to connect to. And so we've set up a process by which the clinicians via the PHR request access, and then a invitation would pop up to the patient, and they can then choose to accept or decline it. Because if it's the other way round, they could find an email and the clinician, and they could do it that way. And it, for various, or we didn't feel, I think there was sort of a number of different workshops we discussed this, both from staff and patients, and there was different views. The patients generally wanted to be able to search a directory of people, but for various different reasons, we didn't feel that was the way forward. So given that we're in this situation where we're using the same, where we're integrated now with the same platform, I think it's quite important we get that clear on which way we're going with it, and have some more discussion around that.
Would it?
Sorry, can I just add to that before you respond? And I think I think we do have one or two GPs on the call, but there's certainly a lot of concern within general practice around an increased load of messages and things coming through, and secure messaging is something they especially do not want in the first instance of this portal, and they do have existing channels to communicate with patients, and we don't want to overload anyone or upset any of the engagement that we have, particularly as we head into winter. And so, yeah, okay, so let's put an action to discuss that over the next couple of weeks, please, Nicola. And I'm conscious of time, and that's really a discussion that we need to take to the Programme Board or Digital Clinical Leaders Forum. But what this should do is recreate what the Health and Care Trust have already determined as their way forward, and that sounds like a sort of sensible approach. We just need to look at whether that can be made more widely available, but we do need to consider it should also be a feature that should be adopted by an organisation or a team as opposed to forced upon them. I think everyone would agree. Because we just can't do that. So anyway, Priya, on you go. Thank you.
Okay, so I've made a note of it. So once there's discussion on that, I'll go ahead and let the team know what we're planning to do. So this is just the way we go ahead and add. So if it is clinician, you have all of these information. If it's family or friends, we have the same information and the same permission level that the person that the patient can provide. Messaging, currently it is active, and this is staging environment. I did note your statement last time, Graham, that you did not want the patients to directly go ahead and message anyone, because it seems like an overload at this point in time. The clinicians did not.
So let me just clarify. That's what we've heard from our GP, our general leads, but I think the Health and Care Trust and the Acute Trust within their older adult mental health and their breast cancer portals do enable that feature. So we just have to be clear on who is, who has access to these features, and that we can control and limit features for certain clinicians. I mean, you showed friends and family there, so obviously as a first point or as a first step, being able to allow patients or carers to upload those key people into the system is really important. I think we just need to look at the the implications for clinical teams about messaging or enabling some of these features, but it's great to see them coming together. So.
Okay. At present, I have asked the team to disable the messaging option. I think that was the discussion we had last time too. We get a confirmation that we don't activate messaging, at least for now. So this feature is here. It would just not be active currently. If we do go ahead with the suggestion that can be activated, I can go ahead and let the team know that once they do the UAT push.
Well, if Acute Breast already has this in their local portal and older adult mental health portal, then it should be enabled. It's the only group who has expressed concerns around this are the GPs, and it's certainly not for phase one for GPs. It requires a lot of thought and possibly integrations with existing messaging apps that they already use. But so yes, we do have to provide the features and functions that the Acute Trust and Health and Care Trust have. So when I made that statement, it was purely about the GPs.
Okay.
So, and even if that's when you open a directory, or I think the way Andy suggested makes sense, but we're not in a position to be able to. We don't have authority or approval to put the GPs into this at this time. So that's the advice they've given us.
Okay. So right now this will stay as it is, unless and until there's a different opinion that's there. So this is the messaging view. You have, once you add someone in the circle, you can have the option to directly select them and go ahead and send a message. So you can have a subject, you can create, type in a message, you can add in an attachment from your device, you can have a picture, and then you can just send it through directly. This is with messaging. And you also have circle invites, and I think this is what Andrew was earlier referring to, wherein this is invitation request, which is when me as a patient would go ahead and send invite to someone in my circle. I also have pending requests wherein if it has been accepted by them or not. I think once if as per and they once said, we can go ahead and see if clinician can send requests, and that can show up here as well. But that's a discussion for sometime in the future. So this is it for my circle. Then you have the track option, which is where all the trackers come in. So you obviously have different options. You have the goals that you can go ahead and set. I can have different goals set. So currently I don't have any. So this is the option for me to add a new one. So I can have my goal name, a small description about it, when am I starting it, when am I ending it, and what am I trying to, so if it's what steps do I need to take to complete the goal is what I type in here, and how often do I want to do this. So once I click on save, it would be added as a goal, and I should be able to see that in the overview option. And once the goal is completed, I do have an option to archive the goal, and all of my old or archived goals can be seen here. Currently there should be nothing present, so meaning I haven't created any and I haven't archived any, but this is basically the way that I go with it. Then I have the coping strategies, wherein I can go ahead, and this is an old one for test, so I'm just going to do a new one. So this is the title that I would add for my coping strategy, and any description I can go ahead and save that. I also have the option to view this as well. And then comes the larger part of the demo, which would be the trackers. So we obviously have integrated the trackers from both acute as well as OMS. So most of the trackers should be in here. So I have the sleep tracker, the mood tracker, problem, pain, weight, daily steps, blood pressure, waist circumference, diet, exercise, fluid, medication. Sorry.
Just jump in there, because we do have 5 minutes left, and I think we had a bit of a discussion last week about actually recording little demos of each of these trackers, so that people can watch them at their leisure. But so I'm conscious of time, and I just wanted to open it up to the floor. Thank you for that, Priya. I think that was really good and great discussion with everyone, particularly highlighting all of the things we still have to work out and think about, and that's before we actually start thinking about training people and how to use this and getting them up and running. So we still have a significant load of tasks ahead. But would anyone like to make any comments or any questions before I jump on? Well, Mindwave are producing videos now that are going on the CCG YouTube channel, and specifically around, this is our environment, this is it coming together, and so more videos are being uploaded as things are deployed into the platform. But anyone like to make any comments or raise anything else that we also need to be thinking about?